But like I was saying before my battery died, I think it's coming from the back of the transmission, because it's horrible sounding inside the car. And then when it did start making noise yesterday, I just kind of popped my head down behind the front wheel here, and it sounds pretty bad there too. So, but it's just weird because it doesn't seem like it's engine speed dependent. It doesn't matter if the clutch is push in or release. It doesn't matter if it's in gear. It's just strange. So like I said, I'm gonna fire this up. I'll just leave the camera sit up here and may use that as a timer to see how long it takes for it to start squealing. Like I said, the first time it did it, we went for a little spin, and then it started doing it on the way home. Then I took it out a time or two since then, and it seemed like it wouldn't happen until the engine was up to operating temp, close to operating temp. And yesterday I just took it around the block in my neighborhood here, and it was squealing. And it's a horribly loud squeal. And it almost sounds like a whistle, but we'll fire this up and see how it goes. Unfortunately, I think the car is going back up on jack stands. All right, back out in the garage again. But it's supposed to be like heat index in the hundreds here, temperatures in the 90s. As you can see, got the garage doors closed today. It's the middle of the day. It's about 3:30. And the last time I looked at the thermometer on the house, I think it said 94 or 95 degrees, and it said 80 on the thermometer for the garage here. So I'm leaving the garage door shut till it cools off outside or it gets too hot in here. Basically come to the conclusion that I'm going to drop this engine out of here again. So hopefully it doesn't take a real long time, but I'm going to try to keep as much intact as possible, keep the radiator in the car, keep the struts in the car, just loosen up the control arms from the bottom of the spindles, try to keep the power steering intact. I want to keep all the brake system intact and just let out as little fluid as possible. I was thinking maybe I could get this radiator out with it, but maybe I can just drop it all out of here without doing any damage. I'm debating if I'll take the fenders off, but I'm thinking I might just leave those on, pull this front fascia off of here, and just try to get as much out of the way as possible and drop the engine and trans out of the car. I ordered from Silver Sport Transmissions the little indexing plate, and just did a cheap Amazon order for a dial indicator so that I can index that transmission. Got all the dowel pins coming for it, so I should be able to just slap in whatever I need and return what I don't. But yeah, I think that's the game plan. It was just squealing horribly bad. And when I had it up on jack stands here, I climbed underneath the car, and you could kind of climb underneath up front here, and it wasn't too bad. But as soon as I climbed underneath from closer to the transmission, you could just really hear it squealing. So I just don't know what to think. And I think the easiest thing to do is just to get it all done right now, get it all set up, get that transmission indexed, replace a pilot bearing or throwout bearing or whatever it needs. Something's not right in there, and it's just weird because it's not really, doesn't seem like it's engine speed dependent, or maybe it's when it's closer to idle, it's squealing really bad and you can kind of rev it up and maybe it gets past the frequency and it's just enough to bother the dogs that it's so high pitched that you can't hear it. I don't know. So we'll pull this apart, see what it is. Maybe I'll get a throwout. Yeah, I'll probably get a throwout bearing on order just so that it's here and ready to go in the car, just in case that's what it is. And I think I have a spare pilot bushing somewhere on my shelves up here. So yeah, we're gonna drop the engine out of the car again. Back out here on the Puzzle Fox, I was gonna get this engine and trans, the whole drivetrain pulled back out of here. I did, like I probably said, I did order the alignment tool and dial indicator and all that stuff so I can get the transmission indexed in here. And I was a little concerned that maybe it's a pilot bearing or a throwout bearing, but I'm really starting to, I don't know, kind of doubt that. But regardless, I think I am still going to drop the trans or drop the engine out here, pull the trans off, do the indexing, slap it back together. But I was talking to my buddy Chris at the Infamous Project, and he kind of, I'm not going to say confirmed, but kind of had the same guess that maybe there's some sort of vacuum leak that's causing this horrible squeal or hiss or whistle or whatever you want to call it. I know whenever it does it, drives the damn dogs nuts. And they start barking and running around and running away. But I'm starting to wonder if it is something with that. So I think I'm going to try to get this. I did start draining the coolant out of here, disconnecting things. Like I got the ground cable disconnected from the engine block. But I'm going to see how quick different sensors disconnected. But I'm going to see how quick I can kind of slap this back together, drop some coolant in it, just enough so that I can get this engine fired up, let it warm up again, see if I can get it to do its squealing that it was doing, and then just dink around with it a little bit. My parts aren't supposed to be here till Wednesday, my indexing plate, and I do have the dial indicator already, but the indexing plate isn't supposed to be here till Wednesday, so I still have time to drop this out of here. I think I can get it dropped out pretty quick. But yeah, we're gonna get this back together, get it fired up again. Alright, so I got this thing fired back up again, no drive shaft in it. I did have to put the exhaust pipes back on there because the O2 sensor is just way too close to the end of that collector. So just letting it run. I'm starting to hear a little bit of a squeal already. Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if it's not something vacuum related in here somewhere, where when you let off the gas then it got really bad, if you notice that. But while it's warm here yet, I'll just kind of go over and check all my intake manifold bolts. I'll even pop this air cleaner off and see if that makes it go away. All right, I'm gonna start this car up one more time, warm it up, get it so that it's squealing again, and then we're gonna try something here. So, infamous Project Chris, he mentioned that he had a problem with a vacuum or an intake leak or something on a Godzilla swap, and I reached out to Coyote Swap Foxbody's group on the Facebook group. And someone else commented a similar thing. They asked about where my PCV was hooked up to. And I want to say this is the stock location here, but maybe it's not. If it's not, I'm going to get it so that it's squealing. I'm going to try this one first. So someone thought that this should be up ahead of the throttle body. So we'll try this one first, kind of pinch that off, see if the squeal goes away. If it doesn't, we'll try this one too, pop that off and put a cap on some of these. So I'll have to see if I have something that I can use for a cap, otherwise I'll just tape it off or something. Try to figure out the safest way possible to get those capped off. But yeah, we're gonna fire this thing up and let it warm up. Just as proof, so it's getting up to about 180 degrees on the coolant tip, 190, and you can hear it starting to come on. So you can hear it pretty good. There it goes. Alright, so all I did was take this hose that was connected to this PCV here and connected to the intake behind the throttle body and disconnected it. If it still screams, I'm going to try that line. disbelief right now that this thing isn't squealing. I'm tempted to hook that line back up, see if it still squeals. I don't know how that could make that much racket. I thought it'd be okay because this PCV goes up to the behind the throttle body. This one does exactly the same thing. It just kind of comes in on a different side unless there's some weird port in there that makes it whistle and holler. Watch this. It was just squealing like crazy. Disconnect that. Plug it off. So I'm just using a vice grip to seal off this vacuum port basically.
Yeah.
Make sure I get a good seal all the way across.